Take a look now at whether government has actually communicated adequately during the coronavirus pandemic. Bring in Don Valley Brand Reputation Management Advisor Moeng joining us from Cape Town, I believe. Sally, a very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for your patience today. Let's get first your assessment of how government has done as far as communicating the COVID-19 message over the past 12 months.
Yeah, good afternoon, and thanks for inviting me. Look, overall, I give government maybe 6.5 to 7 out of 10. There were some really good moments where they were consistent, especially in the beginning of the pandemic. It was very clear what it was all about, and I think everybody was shocked, and everybody was paying a lot more attention to what government was saying, and they were prepared to follow the instructions, the guidelines. But I think the government began to get it wrong when it started to contradict itself. So the president would stand up and say, this is how it's going to run. And the next day we have Minister KwaZulu-Natal Zuma standing up to contradict him, and other ministers not only contradict him in the way they said, in what they said, but in some of the things they did. I mean, we know all the stories of these ministers who were caught running around as if the regulations and the restrictions were not intended for them. And I think that the whole issue of corruption also distracted the attention of many South Africans. Many people have lost their lives, many people have lost, and they continue to lose their livelihoods. And when they saw the wastage, the corruption on PPEs and people seeming to get away with it, it really brought a bitter taste into the mouths of South Africans. Especially when the president kept saying that they're going to be strong, against the corruption, they're going to fight corruption, they're going to prevent all the 500 billion rands stimulus package from going into the wrong hands. But all of that has gone into the wrong hands. A lot of it has gone into the wrong hands. And
corruption, of course, has been a very big issue over the COVID-19 lockdown period. And obviously, the president cannot effect arrests. Ministers don't do that. But what can government and cabinet do to make sure that there is a restoration or reassurance that they are indeed taking the corruption allegations in government seriously? I mean, at the moment, there are claims that people close to the health minister, Zweli Mkhize, benefited from communications contracts. The SIU investigating, both the minister and the president noting and welcoming that probe.
Yeah, well, the thing is, government, even Mr. Zuma was very good at condemning corruption. That's a problem. They say these things, but in their actions, there is not any indication that they're very serious about it. I mean, there are still ministers in government who shouldn't be in those positions because they're continuously going through the courts. They have all sorts of allegations hanging over them. All of this, what it really does is that it lowers people's trust in government. When government says it is going to do one thing and it doesn't. And of course, people don't know that the president doesn't have arresting powers, and he shouldn't. We don't want to see the president arresting people or giving instructions to the NPA and the police to arrest people. But what he should say is, I do not want in my government people like this. And he's not saying that. He should be saying to his party that if you are under cloud, if you have a dark cloud hanging over your head, you shouldn't be in my government. You should be out there clearing yourself before you come back, because everything comes back to him. He's the big honcho. He's all the buck stops at his door. And when he's not able to convince South Africans that he is in power, he's leading from the front, it's going to be really difficult for them to trust him on other things where they should be trusting him.
And the president stressed on Sunday evening when he announced lowering of lockdown from adjusted level 3 to level 1 that, yes, we're expecting a bigger rollout of vaccinations to begin in the coming weeks. Infection numbers are down, so are deaths as a result of COVID-19, but we're not out of the woods yet. Do you get the sense that South Africans understand that message and that that is really getting down to where it should be, to say, look, it's still a long road ahead?
Well, some do, some don't. That's the problem. I mean, 1 year of people still going around to have big parties with lots of crowds and people singing and dancing into each other's faces, getting drunk. I think those people are not getting it. And one could say either they are stupid or stubborn, or they are tired of the many months of lockdown, and suddenly when the doors suddenly open up, they want to go there and have some fun. But I think that it's important that people realize that the responsibility lies on both sides. Whether or not government communicates badly, people still have the responsibility to realize that people are dying from this thing, and that we all have a responsibility to protect self and others from infections.
Moeng from Don Valley Brand Reputation Management, good to speak to you. you this lunchtime.